The Ford Mustang is a car that carries a lot of heritage on its shoulders of the Ford Motor Company. Now, this is a car that's also been very consistent. Ford has always kept it around throughout the years, ever since its first introduction back in 1965. Now, I've shown you guys another Mustang before, but there are many different models of the Mustang to choose from. In fact, it's one of the most customizable Fords in the lineup of Ford vehicles. And for 2014, what you're looking at is essentially the same refresh model that the 2013 model gave you. In fact, this will be the last model year of this body style, as Ford has been teasing us with several concepts of the next generation Mustang. In fact, the next generation Mustang is rumored to get an EcoBoost 4-cylinder and V6. It'll be lighter. It'll finally get an independent rear suspension. But today, let's take a look at a much more basic model. In fact, this is actually the cheapest Mustang that you can buy brand new. This one represents a V6 base. Now, the Mustang is essentially available for 2014 in 3 different engines. There's the V6, the GT, which is the V8, and then the Shelby. The Boss 302 is no more. And then from either the engine configuration, you have the subcategories of base and premium. This one is a base model. You can distinguish it as a base from these rather plain looking 17-inch wheels. In fact, the tires have so much sidewall on them, they actually look like 16-inch wheels. This car essentially to me kind of looks like a rental special, but the fact that it's a 6-speed manual makes this one of the best performance bargains you can buy. With a base price of $22,200, this car is cheaper than a Focus ST and the upcoming Fiesta ST by, actually no, the Fiesta ST is cheaper by like $100. But to be honest, this is a 305 horsepower rear-wheel drive sports car versus a 197 horse turbocharged front-wheel drive hot hatch. You can see Ford updated the styling in 2013 with the black style, the black taillights, the black panel. The wheels for 2014, there was a new model, or there's a new wheel choice for the V6 premium model. You can see this is the base. The premiums will have a darker finish 17-inch alloy with the availability of 18s and such. Personally, I would get a V6 Mustang like this with the V6 performance package. But like I said before, the Mustang is one of the most customizable cars you can buy. At the front, you have LED accented HID headlights. Those are bi-xenon HIDs. They're standard on every model, even this base model. And as you can see, the Mustang comes pretty well equipped, and it's a fairly good looking car, even though this generation is about to be replaced. Now, when you look at the interior, you can see that this one just has cloth seats. Essentially, when you get a premium model, you add power driver seat, leather interior, the 4.2-inch screen, sync, Bluetooth controls, stuff like that. The premium luxury stuff. Of course, when you get into a Mustang, it's a low-slung rear-wheel drive sports car, so you do have to duck your head. Here's the key for the vehicle. Push-button start is still not available on the Mustang. I'm expecting the next generation to include it. You can see this one is the 6-speed manual, and then there's the center stack of the more basic model. Sticking the key in the ignition, you have the traditional Ford dinger. And then, of course, when you look at the instrument panel, you can see it's missing that 4.2-inch screen. The premium model will add that, as well as give you a little bit more controls or information displays there. It's kind of bare in this base model. And surprisingly, that V6 still makes a decently nice sound at startup. And then, of course, shutting the door, all 4 windows are automatic up and down. So that's, or I'm sorry, both windows are automatic up and down. So that's nice that they included that. And then the Mustang's interior surprisingly got a refresh in 2010, and it's an okay interior, much better than the 05 to 09 model in terms of the quality. You have a soft touch material in the dash, you have the dual cowl design. The premiums will give you a much nicer looking aluminum look plastic. This looks pretty cheap to me, honestly, and it feels relatively cheap. Some chrome is still splashed throughout. You have steering wheel controls, audio controls, cruise control. And then on the door panels, unfortunately, it is hard plastic. The premiums will give you the chrome door handle with there's also some vinyl here, and then it's padded here, but it's not like leather stitched or anything. But again, that's included on the premium model. In terms of the center stack here, this is basically Ford's just basic audio system. The fact that there's all these buttons here, and I like the fact that there's all these buttons here because there's no stupid touchscreen like some of the newer Fords. Dual zone automatic climate control is available if you get the navigation package. Of course, this one is also missing satellite radio, even though for some reason it says Sirius there, but when you push it, it says no satellite radio. This one's also missing sync, so when you look in the center console here, there's no USB input, just an aux port. Don't expect to have the little fancy sync controls. The 6-speed shifter in this car is a very short throw shifter with a huge fat shift knob, and then for reverse you have to push down. There's no backup camera on this particular model. It's a fairly easy shifter to use, and the clutch is on the long travel side, but it's not as heavy as I thought it would be. Looking at the glove compartment, it's a rather cheap glove compartment. It just falls down. It's pretty small. It's not damped or anything like that. Overall, with this attractively low price, the interior of this vehicle is actually not bad. I think that it's up to par for what Ford's asking for this base model. Now, accessing the back seat is done by pulling on this lever here. The seat will basically fold forward, and then when you get into the back seat of the Mustang is on the tighter side, just because this is the smallest of the 3 muscle cars. In terms of space, this is really reserved just for kids. Don't expect to put adults back here unless you really hate them. The materials back here are all hard plastic. Even down here, it's even hard plastic down here. Surprisingly, they do give you a headrest, but there's no armrest here. So expect the back seat just for mostly just putting your stuff back here instead of putting people. Now, when you look at the trunk, the Mustang actually has a surprisingly big trunk. This measures about 13.5 cubic feet. If you go with the convertible body style, it drops the trunk capacity to about 9.5. This is actually bigger than the Camaro, but I believe the Challenger gives you a little bit more space because it is the biggest vehicle. But surprisingly, it's not bad. Now, when you get under the hood, ever since Ford replaced those old engines back in 2011, you essentially get a pretty phenomenal base motor. This is Ford's corporate 3.7 liter V6 engine. It does have their variable camshaft timing. It makes 305 horsepower, which is actually about 10 less than the GT model from 2010, 280 pound-feet of torque. It surprisingly makes a pretty nice sound. It's quite a racy, revvy engine. I'll get into how it drives in a moment. Paired with the 6-speed manual, there is a 6-speed automatic available. Driving the rear wheels, this car is rated to run on regular gas, and it's rated at 19 city, 28 highway. Let's take a look at how it all works together. Now, I know a lot of people are trained to think that you should go with the V8 for a Mustang, but I'm here to tell you that the 6 offers quite a performance punch itself, and I really think that a lot of people should start considering just because of its cheap price as well. Yep, that's what you heard correctly. That was a 3rd gear chirp, and although it is slightly misting out here, it isn't exactly wet on the road yet. Now, in terms of performance, this V6 model makes 305 horsepower, which is a lot for a V6. Even though the Camaro makes a little bit more power, this is a lighter car. The Mustang weighs about 3,400 pounds, which is about 200 pounds lighter than the Camaro, or maybe about 400 pounds lighter than the Challenger. Now, it's amazing to me because Ford is making this car lighter, and it's already the lightest car in the American muscle car class. Really, the Genesis Coupe is the one that will beat this car in terms of lightness, handling, and all-out performance, but that's more of a sports car. Now, when you actually are just cruising down the road, the Mustang has a surprisingly compliant ride. I thought it would be much more harsh than this, but again, my model has the 17-inch wheels with 65 series rubber, so that's not exactly a performance tire. I suspect if you guys go with the performance package, what I would do with, you get 19-inch wheels and it'll be a little bit harsher. Now, the handling of the Mustang is not bad. This car surprisingly has a good stiff suspension so it doesn't have to lean too much in the corners. The steering provides a little bit of feedback. It's really not as alive as I'd like it to be, especially for a sports car, but it's not bad. The shifter and the clutch, however, do take a little bit of time to get used to. I do feel that the full engagement point of the clutch is a little bit too high in the travel. It'll take you a couple of tries to get used to when it engages. Otherwise, the first times you're going to be constantly shaking everyone's head when you're shifting. The shifter also has a nice clunky feel to it. It doesn't have the same precision snickety-snick that some of you may be used to in a Honda transmission, but I think it's not bad. It's much better than a lot of the older Mustang shifters. I still prefer the Focus ST shifter over this shifter, so I'm kind of hoping Ford makes the ST shifter available, or makes the next Mustang shifter similar to the STs. In terms of visibility, the Mustang is not really the best. Let's be honest though, all these muscle cars really aren't the best to look out of. The Camaro is probably the worst. The Challenger, I want to say, is probably the best. But honestly, you have a very tall hood to look out of. You have this really fat pillar right here. The side mirrors are really pathetic. They're small, but at least Ford gives you the little integrated blind spot mirror. And then, of course, looking out of the back, the window's pretty small as well. But overall, you'll probably get used to this car. It's a muscle car, and you have to make some compromises for it. The V6 surprisingly makes a really nice sound. I know a lot of you probably are thinking, nah, I gotta have the V8, the 5.0, that Coyote V8 is the one to go with, and I'm not denying the sound of the V8, but for a 3.7 V6, this makes an okay noise as well. I'd probably be pretty happy with it for those of you who don't have the heaviest foot. Again, with all this horsepower under the hood for a 6, really only the most power-hungry people are going to want more power. I mean, 0 to 60 times is, for this car, about 5.5 seconds, which is pretty competitive for this class. The V8, of course, will do it in about 4.8, something like that, so you still get the bragging rights with the 8-cylinder. So that brings me to the conclusion of this review. 2014, again, is the last model year of this generation Mustang, and I definitely think at this price level, at $22,995, including destination, this is one of the best performance bargains you can buy. Personally, I would add the $2,000 V6 performance package for a sticker of under $25,000. I think that is probably the best bang for your buck in terms of horsepower per dollar. If you're going to look at the competition, of course, you have the Genesis Coupe, you have the Camaro, the Challenger is a little bit too big. Honestly, I don't think you guys would be cross-shopping the Mustang with this car, to be honest. But hope you guys have enjoyed my overview of this 2014 Mustang V6. If you're in the market for one of these Mustangs, snatch them up while you can, because an all-new body style is coming out later next year. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I'll catch you all later.